Welcome to Fluent and Chill. I'm Anthony K. I'm here as always with my main man, Jermaine from Chilltown Hoops. Jay, how you doing, man?
What's going on, brother?
I love it. I'm happy and I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy because there's a bunch of stuff going on in the NBA. This is the NBA edition, by the way, if you didn't know. But I'm also nervous. So we're going to get into COVID and what it means to the NBA. We're going to talk about LaMelo Ball starting in the All-Star game. All right, talk about that. Steve Kerr named the head coach of USA Basketball. You love it. You love it. I hate it. I'll tell you why, and he'll tell you why. But we're going to start. Last week, I was a little hard on the centers. I don't mean to be hard on centers, on big men. I like big men.
That's an understatement, and no, he doesn't. So
I like the big man. I think it's an important part of the game. I always, much like you, wished I was 7'1" and that I could just drop step, bam. I wish I could. I can't. I couldn't. I would have loved to have done that. So that being said, I got a lot of feedback about, okay, you're a little hard on the centers. Can you guys talk about your top 5 centers of all time? So that's where we're going to start this week.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm going to let you go first. Top 5 centers of all time. Kind of give me a why, who's on the fringe, and then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question because I want to know if there's anybody currently that might jump into that top 5 spot.
My top five men of all time. At the top, I got Jabbar, Chamberlain, Russell, Olajuwon, Diesel. Those are my top 5 centers. And
is that the order?
In that order. In that order. And I got Jabbar, because you can make the argument that in terms of a career, there is nobody who's come close to what Jabbar's done. From high school to college to the professional ranks, there is nobody who has come close to what he has done. He was absolutely amazing from the beginning to the end. He invented, and I always say this anytime I talk to people about Jabbar, and people talk about versatility of the 5 men. He had one move: stop this and you stop me. He played 20 years.
No, stop.
That's all. And
I think he could still score like 10 points a game now.
He had one move: stop this and you stop me. He played 20 years, and his record still stands to this day as the all-time leading scorer in NBA history from 1984. So we'll start there. He was incredible as a rebounder. He was absolutely phenomenal in the fast break. Jabbar got up and down the floor with the best of them as an athlete. He was tough as nails. And a lot of people don't give Jabbar nearly as much credit for his ability to pass. He had a stretch where he went 30-15. He averaged almost 4 assists, which is incredible for a big man, just so you know. So Jabbar was, and I caught Jabbar on the back end of his prime. I didn't catch Jabbar like Joel Embiid today or guys like that. No, I didn't. My second guy is Chamberlain, who my co-host here thinks never really existed. He thinks that he's like Medusa or Greek mythology or anything like that.
I believe more in what was his alter ego, Marcus Robinson. Yeah. I think he's more real than Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain, my co-host here, he doesn't believe that Wilt scored 100 points. Which, by the way, I want to get into something really quick. Really?
Sorry, I said Marcus Robinson. George Marcus, excuse me.
George Marcus.
George Marcus was his alter ego.
So Tone has an issue with Wilt Chamberlain going 28 for 32 from the stripe.
I do.
He's got a problem with that. Which, by the way, Tone, that was his highest free throw percentage for his career that year. So is it?
That was his highest ever in his. He never shot better than that ever. I don't think he hit 28 free throws in a season. Come on.
Now, okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Tone, because I shoot 60% one season. Okay, so throughout the course of an 82-game season, is it realistic to think that just one time in that season, I could shoot 80 from the stripe? If I shoot 60 all year,
did he shoot 60?
He shot 60% for the season. Is it realistic to think that I could shoot 80 one time?
Is it realistic to think you could shoot 80 one time? Yes, in a low volume game, like if you shot 5, you could hit 4, sure. But the odds of you hitting 28, which just happened to be on the night that you score 100.
Well, that's my point, Tone, because
that there's no video evidence of that,
it's
hey, you saw the episode. We're not supposed to get into this, but I don't know if you saw the episode that I did with my guy from You Should Know podcast, Peyton Harden, who talked about they said they stormed the court when he hit his 100th point. Yet the radio version, there's 100 points. And the next play down the court is, hold on, I thought they stormed the court. Why are the radio announcers saying that they didn't storm the court? Why are there no pictures? There were 2 photographers there. Why are there no pictures of anyone storming there? There's 4,100 people there. 100,000 people say they were there, but there was 4,100 people there.
Correct.
None of them said they stormed the court, but they said they stormed the court. And there's no pictures. There's a lot of
like I said, Tom, I'm trying to figure out if I'm having a career year. For example, your man Kobe Bryant.
To answer your question, can you shoot 80% from the line one day when you're averaging 60%? Yes, you can.
Right, yes, 90%. Your man Kobe Bryant is a prime example. Kobe goes for 35 in the season. Is it ridiculous to think that on one night I got it going, I could get 70? Maybe 80 in a game? Is it ridiculous to think that I could do that?
If I wasn't there, didn't see it, I'd say yes.
Right.
But I can go back and watch the video, and I can see every single point. I can't do that.
Chamberlain.
Listen, is it crazy to think? Is it crazy to question things?
No, it's not. You have to, in fact.
If I don't see it, I think I'm curious, and I think curiosity is good. So I ask questions, and I haven't gotten an answer. Why wasn't there a film crew there? Because they normally film games. Even back then, they filmed games. Why did the radio? I know we're going way off topic, guys. I'm sorry. Why did the radio announce whatever the radio broadcast? How come it didn't come out till years later? Why?
I think a lot.
Now, am I saying there's something wrong? I'm just asking why, and everyone goes, everyone gets defensive.
Well, because
what happens? What happens when you ask your kid? What happens when you ask your kid a question? They get defensive. Why?
They're lying. They're lying, absolutely, and they're trying to cover something up. But this is not that particular situation. So the game got moved somewhere completely different. But I'm getting off topic here. Chamberlain was so good that his numbers. They say that he had a down playoff season where for 6 years he averaged 35 and 20 in the playoffs. And they say that his numbers went down. That's just how good this guy was, right? Every record that's attached, every big time record in the NBA is attached to Wilt Chamberlain. The most rebounds in the game, the most points in the game, the most points per game. The team with the most wins, consecutive wins, Chamberlain. The only team to beat the Celtics in the 60s. Who was on that team? Chamberlain. So he's basically attached to almost everything.
Oh yeah. When we take look, I say this, I say some of this stuff half tongue in cheek, right? When you take away that from it, what he did in his career,
right?
It's so phenomenal that it makes it easy to question if it was real, because some of the numbers are just so far and beyond what anyone else could imagine doing. It's crazy.
A prime example is you, Tone. The dude scored 100 in the game. You're like, no, he didn't. No, that didn't happen. I believe this. I believe that. No, he did not do that. No, that did not happen.
That's how phenomenal. Right. I brought up George Marcus as a joke, but he was a high school kid playing pro ball, putting up like 60, 70 points a game.
For real, yo. When I think about Bill Russell, right? When I think about Bill Russell, I think about a guy who was just transcendent. He was the difference in everything that we did. And not only was he the difference, a lot of people talk about his inability to score. I mean, Russell did average 20 and 20 twice in the playoffs. So that's a big deal. And a lot of people talk about his field goal percentage. Well, Tone, that was the going rate during that time. It wasn't like he was shooting 42% and everybody else was shooting 56 or 58. No, that was the going rate during that time. And the best example that I give people is, I'd like for you to imagine Rudy Gobert playing for the Utah Jazz and coaching them to the NBA championship. How would that go today? That wouldn't go.
I put out a stat, one to tease and then one to like give people a reality check. So the tease one, like to bother people, was Steph Curry, and we're gonna talk about Steph Curry today too, by the way, and his 3-point record that he broke. I forgot to mention that, but for his career, I think he shoots like 43.5% from three for his career. Michael Jordan played 13 seasons for the Bulls and won 6 championships, which is 46.1%. So the odds of Jordan as a Bull winning a championship, the percentage was higher than what Steph Curry hits from 3. Okay. So that got people a little riled up. And then I said, but let me give you some more perspective. Michael Jordan shot 85 point something percent from the free throw line. Bill Russell, in his 13 seasons with the Celtics, went to the NBA final 12 times, won it 11, which was 86 point something percent. So the likelihood that Jordan, who could shoot free throws with his eyes closed, hitting a free throw, the chances that that Bill Russell won a championship was higher than Jordan hitting a free throw.
Think about that.
And he coached them you're right. Like that is just what he did as a winner, as a player, as a leader. There's no stat for leadership.
No,
but if there was like an NBA 2K rating for leadership, and maybe there is, right? He shouldn't get 100. His should be like 125 or something, because
Russell, then it's everybody else.
And the players on his team said once he came in, you say this all the time, once he came in, that's it. We knew we were winning.
He was the difference.
We knew we were going to win.
Yep, he was the difference in what we were doing. Olajuwon is number 4 on my list, and when I think about him, one of the most complete 5 men that I've ever seen, both on the offensive and defensive end of the basketball, the ability to rebound, his athleticism, the ability to guard a number of different positions. Olajuwon was phenomenal. Now a lot of people give him heat on what he did in the playoffs, but Tone, every great player has that. So during that time, the problem was Phoenix had a problem with Houston. Houston had a problem with Seattle. Seattle had a problem with Phoenix. So it was basically whoever you could avoid, that's the way that would work. Because if I remember correctly, I think that Seattle beat Houston. I think they beat them 6 times in 10 years in the playoffs. They own them. And
sometimes teams just have your number, right?
They own them. And Kenny Smith, he had such a difficult time with Gary Payton, but it had nothing to do with how good Olajuwon was, because Olajuwon was awesome. I thought he had a legit shot to win Defensive Player of the Year in '89, even in '88 when Jordan won it. Even though Jordan went 200 blocks, 200 steals, and 100 blocks, Olajuwon had a legit shot to win it then and the year after that. But when I think about his ability to score the basketball, his ability to rebound the basketball, him as a leader, also how he grew into that role, I thought he was phenomenal. And the last one would be Shaq. And Shaq was a lot of people they discount how much brute force Shaq just was, how unstoppable he was, strictly because of that. Shaq was basically a Mack truck and he was just force, and there was really nothing that you could do. It wasn't he had some grace to him, but for the most part, Shaq was just brute force, and there was really nothing that you could do with him. I expected Shaq to be a little bit better than what he was, and that's why I rate him as low as I do. Considering how awesome he really was, I thought he could have been so much better.
So let me ask you a question, because Shaq in his prime, and I have Shaq ranked higher than you in the top 5. So let me ask a question, then I'll say mine. So if Shaq in his prime, Orlando, Laker, Heat, if he wins that championship with the Heat and then retires, are you thinking differently of Shaq? Because when you compare him to the Russells, let's say, who played 12, 13 years, is it that last, that Boston, Phoenix, Cleveland, is that diminishing I know it diminishes what other people see Shaq as, like younger people who saw more of the tail end, right? Who saw him 10 points a game, in Cleveland. They're like, he's not big deal. All he does is dunk, right? They don't remember him taking a rebound, going coast to coast, and breaking the backboard, like, like some other people do. Do you think those later years hurt his legacy?
You could make that argument, Tom, because he became a journeyman. And at that point, after they won the NBA championship in 2006, that would have been year 14, and he would have been done. Now, he wouldn't have been I don't think he would have been in the top 5 all time in scoring in NBA history.
No.
But I think that his legacy might have been quite different, because he would have retired on top. going to the NBA Finals. You figure that would have been 5 trips in 7 years, winning 4. That's pretty impressive for a guy making the All-NBA team, 12 times? It would have been 12 times in 14 years. I mean, he did make the All-NBA team in Phoenix, but Shaq was a shell of himself after that, going to Phoenix.
But that's what I mean. I think we see that Shaq too, and we put it into the mix because I think at year 14 he played the same number of years as Russell, right? Granted, still four championships, like you said, 7 trips to the finals, one of only 3 teams to ever three-peat, right? He was the best player on those Lakers teams with Kobe. Okay, he was the second best player in Miami, but still don't like. I love Wade, but Wade doesn't win. The Heat don't win without Shaq. No, they don't. So I think it does hurt him a little bit.
You can make that argument, Tone, absolutely, because you think about a guy who, and a lot of guys, that's going on today too with a lot of guys where they turn into journeymen, and it just looks bad on their resume. Because like to see Shaq put on that Boston Celtic uniform, he was clearly washed. He was done.
Yeah. He was out of shape. He was. I get it. You still. Listen. Anyone who's played sports, when that fires inside you, you still want to play it, and I get it, right? Like, hey, let's be honest. He's not the only one. Like, if Jordan doesn't play for the Wizards,
right?
Like, just think about his legacy is great. If he never played for the Wizards, it might actually even be. And don't get me wrong, he didn't play horrible for the Wizards, but I still think it. Maybe it's just me. Like, I like seeing Kobe start a Laker, retire a Laker. I like seeing stuff like that. Olajuwon as a Raptor. Yeah.
And at the end too. It wasn't like he got traded to the Raptors in year 6 or year 7.
No.
Olajuwon was over in Toronto.
Yeah, he was done. Over. So it's those that Patrick Ewing in Orlando, and I think he played in Seattle too. People forget. Like, though I understand as a player wanting to do that, still wanting to go out and play. But it's just So for me, I've got Jabbar, Chamberlain, Shaq, Hakeem, and Russ.
Nice.
And listen, Russ is so hard for me to rate. One, him and Chamberlain, really, because similar to you, at least I saw Jabbar play in real time. Wilt and Russ are so hard because I never saw them play. Right. I'm going by and I do what I tell people not to. Well, go look at the highlights, which I hate. But that's why it's so hard for us, because I'm like most. I look at the offensive side of the ball first because, hey, there's stats. When Russell was playing, there wasn't necessarily all the defensive stats that we have today. Like, I don't even think was it blocks that they weren't even officially counting then? So we don't even know. We see these crazy rebound numbers, but I don't know how many blocks, how many charges, what is, defensive ratings. And not that that's the only way to judge people, but it does help when you can have I have a page of stats. I have a page of, I can go through and watch 100 games of video. I could do all these things and I can't do that with Russell and Wilt. Right. So that's why when I see 17 points a game, 44% from the field, and I go back like you and I see, well, okay, that was kind of the going rate there. Then I look at the team he had and I think, okay, look, team accolades are important. Championships are important. But would he have all those if he was on, what if Wilt was on the Celtics and Russell was on the Warriors?
Yeah.
Am I still? So I try to do that, right? And then I think, and the last one I think is, okay, if I'm picking a center, so I'm drafting, who do I want? And that's the tough one too, because it depends who my other players on the team are. So that's why, I know that it's so hard to do. And I admit, is Russ too high? Is Russ too low? I don't know.
Now you got to also remember too, Tone, that the all-league defensive team didn't come out till Russ's last season in the league. That's when the all-league defensive team was first implemented. That's number one. Two, it's difficult to put guys and go, well, if you take this guy out and put this guy in, would he be just as good? Well, you got to take under consideration what Russ was for Boston. Russ could very well be for Boston what Leonard was in Toronto. So if Leonard stays in Toronto, do they keep rolling? Now, I think that they do. With that being said, if you take Leonard out of that lineup and you put, I'm not going to say LeBron, because LeBron was great everywhere, but somebody else at the small forward spot.
KD.
You take KD and put him on that Toronto team. do they do the same thing that they're doing? Because Leonard brought something different to that unit.
Yeah.
And not only did he bring something different to that unit, it worked. I don't know if what KD brought would have worked.
Right. No, that's why I always have that, when people say, well, if you put Wilt on the Celtics, they still win. And I'm like, I don't know. Because Wilt, from a skill set, right, I would say had more than Russell did, especially offensively. He clearly could do more. But would the chemistry and that fit on the team have worked as well? And that's what I don't know. So you've got Jabbar, Chamberlain, Russell, Hakeem, Shaq. Yep. I've got Jabbar, Chamberlain, Shaq, Hakeem, Russell. Last question. Is there a player or players that are either ending their career or starting their career that you could say, if they look, it's hard to project to the future, but like, could you say, man, if Joker does this for 15 years, he might make it into my top 5? Like, is there a player that you could see cracking your top 5?
Tone that top
if
5.
they do, yeah.
When you're talking about the 5 spots specifically, that's going to be tough, man, because those guys did it on a consistent basis for a long time. Like they weren't. Like Shaq wasn't a 4 or 5 year guy. Chamberlain wasn't a 5-year guy. Jabbar averaged 30 and 15 for 8 straight years. Olajuwon was an all-league defender. It's real difficult, Tone, when I think about guys today. 1, because they move around a lot, and 2, because they don't play nearly as much as they did back then. So that's also tough. So it's difficult to accumulate the numbers and get the wins that you would, because your team is different and you don't really play that much. So that's not to say that it can't be done, Tone. That's not to say that it can't be done, because prime example would be Steph Curry. I thought that somebody would break the 3-point record, but then Steph Curry was coming along and I saw what he was doing. I'm thinking, this dude might have a shot. He might have a shot to break the record, and he did do it. Now, I don't think that that's going to be done again, but.
Well, I think with Steph, okay, so we're going to get into Steph right after this. With Steph, or at least with the 3-point record, you saw the game, right? Every year, teams were shooting more and more threes, so it was bound to happen. They're using centers less and less now, which is to my, if I'm answering that question, I'm thinking, I don't know if someone breaks that top 5 because they're using the center less and less. Now, there's going to be someone. Right? There's got to be someone.
Well, wait a minute, Tone. Are they using the center less, or are they using them differently?
Differently, yes. The center position is different than it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's not the conventional guy that's on the box. That's just standing
so,
underneath.
And that's going to make it really hard. Like, how do you compare a guy that's, shooting threes and racking up assists against the guy who was, down in the block, hitting, I look at Shaq, 0 to 3 feet, 75%.
That's nuts.
That's nuts, right? So how do you compare that guy getting 15 rebounds and 25 a game,
right,
to a guy shooting threes? It's very different. So that's why for me it's gonna be really hard, because you're gonna be comparing almost different. It's almost like different positions. Like they play the same position, but it's different.
Yeah.
So you brought up Steph's 3-point record, and we had talked about last week. We talked about when's he gonna break it? When's he gonna break it? We threw out some games. Turns out it was against the New York Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start here. I'm going to go into how phenomenal that is, but I want to start. Did you see Ray Allen's face?
Yes.
He didn't seem very happy. Like when Ray Allen took over the lead, I believe from was it from Reggie Miller? Was it from Reggie Miller? Reggie legit looked happy for him, right? And I've seen other sports, the baseball records, and they always bring out the person who's I never understood that, by the way. You broke my record. I'm with Ray Allen. I'm not really happy about it. However, they always trot them out and they give them some kind of award or something. Everybody's smiling and happy. Ray Allen was kind of like,
well, you got to remember who you're talking about too, Tone. Ray Allen is the guy who, he'll hit a 3 and win the game, and he's still like. But he's also the guy who'll turn the ball over at the end of the game, and he's still like. So Ray Allen's his facial expression never really changes. So I don't think that he was upset about it at all. I will say this:
just kind of his face.
That's just how he is. Okay. However, when you think about, the record was broken just last week. I only had it for 10 years. damn, it was just 10 years ago that I did it. So it's not like it's a situation where this was held on
Didn't
to
last very long.
Right. So this was like 10 years. That's it. So, when I think about a guy like Curry, I personally, Tone, I don't think that I'm going to see anybody in my lifetime do it again. I don't think so. Because when I look at what Curry did, and when Ray Allen did it in 2010. Yeah, he did it in the 10-11 season. He only played 3 more years after that. So that he was over after he was on not only on the other side of it, he was just about over. Same thing with Reggie Miller when he broke it. It wasn't that long before he was over. Steph's in the middle of his
still got a lot of years left.
Yeah, Steph still got a lot of years left, and not a lot of years left, Tone. He's got a lot of good years left in him, where he could still shoot the long ball after his prime is over. Now, the question that I ask is, are we going to get to a point, Tone, where we top out with the long ball? Because we got teams shooting the long ball at 25, 30 times a game, right?
The average is 30, 35, 36 a game, yeah.
Are we going to get to 50? Are we going to get to 60? Are we going to get to a point where teams are shooting 53s, 63? I mean, because this has to top off at some point.
Is that going to be a game that you want to watch?
Right. On top of that.
Right, because we always know what did the NBA have to balance? Scoring and entertainment.
Yes.
Right? We knew in the 90s they needed to do something because scoring was on a 10-year, every year it was going down. Yep. And the game was becoming, I equate it to, for my Canadian fans here, to the NHL. They'd had this thing called the neutral zone trap that just made everything really defensive, really slow, really boring, low scoring. Nobody wanted to watch it. And so they had to do. Are we going, to your point, to the other end where it's just a bunch of guys standing around the 3-point line, jacking up threes,
right,
like an all-star game?
Right.
And that's not entertaining to watch for me.
No, it's not.
Like, I think that you need to have balance.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
It's interesting because when I saw Ray Allen's face, I thought, I think it was more like I wish I was playing today, where I had the green light to just shoot it from wherever, because he could do it, just shoot from anywhere on the court that I wanted to at any point, even on a fast break. Like, could you imagine Ray Allen pulling up on a fast break and shooting a 3? But now, be like, I have the green light to do that. So I think there's a little bit of that. I think he wants us to add in all the threes he hit as Jesus Shuttleworth. So we don't count those. So really, maybe the record's not broken. We got to add those in. But yeah, I think, what Curry has done, what Curry has been, let me just say this, what Curry's been allowed to do, I think is so phenomenal in the sense that the volume, like, I think it was about, because here's the thing. People always, you know me, I always fight with people about Steph Curry changed the game. And I'm like, no, Steph Curry was the perfect catalyst for a change in the game. And my thing is, because go back and look, when he's under Mark Jackson, who knew, like Mark Jackson said, I got the best shooting backcourt in the world that history has ever seen. He knew what he had. I don't think he knew how to coach him. Right. I think he's a good coach, but in the end, he identified what he had, but he was still trying to have Steph be a point guard, right? Pass and pass and pass. Because when you look at Curry's stats in those first, I want to say 5 or 6 years, he's not shooting double-digit threes per game.
No, he's not.
It's once Steve Kerr comes in and says, green light, go, and it shoots up. So it'd be interesting, one, had Steph Curry been able to do that from day one, what a difference we would have seen.
I think it would have been.
But to that point, once he got the green light, the percentage of them, he's not only, one of the top in volume every year, he's also one of the highest percentage made, which is, I can go shoot 10,000 threes, right? You can go shoot 10,000 threes. You got to hit hit them over 40% of them. That's
for your career, by the way, Tony.
For your career,
that's at a high volume. At a high volume. That's
the part. That's the part that I'm so impressed by, Steph, is that anyone could look. I'm not saying anyone, but anyone could shoot that number. Not everyone can hit that number, and especially from where he hits them and how he makes them.
Yeah,
I just, we have to give him. I have him. So we did someone sent me the 4 most influential players in basketball history, and it was Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, and Curry. And I said, and this is again compliment I get. I switched out Kobe and LeBron. I'll be honest. I took LeBron out and I put in Earl Lloyd. right? And for those that don't know, there was three guys: Cooper, I forget the other guy, and Lloyd. Cooper, I think, was the first one drafted. Then there was one who signed the first NBA contract, but Lloyd was the first black player, in case you don't know, to ever actually play in a game. So I kind of give him credit for the first one to play, although there was someone else who was drafted and signed before. He was the first one to play. So I think that's, some people push back on it, but I think it's because they didn't know who Earl Lloyd was. The other one I replaced, and I can't believe I did this because you know how I feel about Kobe. I put Allen Iverson instead of Kobe because of what he did kind of for the culture and the way people dressed and music, like just everything he did for them. I left Jordan and Curry. I left Curry because no matter what I think who started the revolution of the three, I know that when I say he was a piece, right? He was part of the change into this three-point shooting era. I know that there's people who think there wasn't a three ball until Curry.
Right.
That's influential. I know that there's kids who are, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", who are like, I can't drop step dunk because I'm not 7'1". You know what I can do? I can shoot a three from the logo.
Shoot the long ball.
Right. I drive by the parks and I watch kids, and they're not, it used to, when I was a kid, we were always just trying to dunk. Always just trying to dunk. It's with our tongue out, trying to dunk, right? Now they're stepping back, shooting threes. My son yesterday was playing against my nephew, playing a little ball. Went between the legs, three. Game winner. Steph Curry. That's influential. I can't, I leave him in there because I don't just think of my opinion. I look at the other.
Right.
So I left him in there. That's huge to make an everyday 6-footer think I can make the NBA because I can shoot like that.
Absolutely.
I'm more likely to shoot like Steph than, jump over you or go through you like LeBron. Like, now, let's be honest.
I will tell you this though, Tone. When you think about what these guys have done, I think I remember Mark Zuckerberg in the social network, where, like you said before, you mentioned Steph Curry really didn't just change the game more than he enhanced it, right? Yeah. So it wasn't because a lot of people don't talk about the fact that the Phoenix Suns were doing this. They played at a high volume and they were shooting the long ball at a high volume. But Steph Curry came in, and then Klay Thompson showed up. Bob Myers had this vision of what the future of the game was. So I immediately think about I immediately think about the Facebook guy, where
Mark Zuckerberg. Mark
Zuckerberg, where
he's listening, so we better be nice.
Yeah, so he was enthralled in this lawsuit where he said about the people who made up Facebook, you had an idea, I had a better one.
Right.
So that's kind of what this was with Steph Curry. You had a great idea. You had a really good idea. I took your idea and made it better.
Yeah.
But I didn't start it. I just took your idea and advanced it. That's all.
You know what? I actually said this in one of the conversations. I was like, listen, Steph didn't start the fire, but boy, did he pour some gasoline on it.
Oh, absolutely he did. No question about that. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So from Curry breaking a record to his coach, Steve Kerr, coaching men's USA basketball, I say it's a bad idea. One, because I don't know. I fight with myself of how good a coach Steve Kerr is, and here's why. When he was out, Luke Walton came in and looked like a great coach, and we know what Luke Walton did in LA and Sacramento. He's not a great coach.
No, he is not.
So I wonder, is Steve Kerr kind of reaping the benefits of having Steph, Klay, Draymond, Iguodala, Sean, like a great Ross, a really the best shooting backcourt in the world, one of the most versatile big men, right? Who can bring up the ball, play defense, ignite, inspire, motivate your team. Role players like Iguodala and Sean Livingston. Is he just a Harrison Barnes? I forget. There's so many. People forget how many good pieces there were on that team. Did he just do a really good job with a phenomenal roster? So I don't know the answer. So that's why I say, is he the right coach? And I get it. Team USA, he's going to have a great roster. So maybe that answers my question. But I just, he seems really laid back, right? And because he has a team, I feel like with Team USA, you need someone who's like Chuck Daly, who's going to get you, to play together and kind of push you a little bit, because it's easy for Team USA to think, we got this. We got the best talent. And I think that's where they faltered in the past, is that they've sat back and said, we've got this. We've got the most talent. Can Steve Kerr push those buttons, do you think? That's what I question. Maybe it's not. Maybe I should say it's a bad one. Maybe I question if he's the right guy.
Right. Now, I'll tell you what, Tone. There's piano players and there's piano movers. Steve Kerr is a piano player. He's not a piano mover. Just like Phil Jackson. That's where he got that from. He's the guy who I can't discount him making a great decision and picking where he wanted to coach. The last thing that you want to do is put yourself in a situation where I might not be very good, just to prove to people that I'm better than what I am. There's a reason why. I mean, Phil Jackson, after Shaq left, the Lakers weren't very good. The Lakers were not very good. And the questions started to arise that, maybe Phil Jackson isn't as good as we all think he is. You're as good of a coach as you are, you're only that good if you got good players around you. And you can mix those players together. Steve Kerr, I think he's done a great job in getting guys to buy into the system. That's very difficult to do, especially at the pro level. Yep. And I think that with USA basketball, he gets guys to buy into the system strictly because it's bigger than us. And we're playing for our country. And the thing that I dig about Steve Kerr, and I dig about his system, is how everybody is involved. He got that from Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
You could be the guy, but you aren't going anywhere without us. And you're only going to be as good as we are. So when I think about what Steve Kerr has done with the Warriors and picking a great squad and implementing that offense, because Tone, what I see with the Warriors offense, it looks to me like an updated version of the triangle. That's all.
100%. It's the triangle mixed with a little Spurs like Popovich ball movement.
That's what it looks like to me.
It's like this perfect hybrid between the two. Yeah,
that's what it looks like to me, and it works because it's not restricting your game. You can still play your game, but whatever it is that you're going to do, it's not ball stopping. Whatever you're going to do, get it done. 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles, get off the ball. 2 dribbles, 3 dribbles, do something with the basketball. And a lot of guys can play in a system like that, as opposed to, we got a ball stoppage. Add that to the fact that not only did Steve Kerr play for Phil Jackson, he also played for Pop too. Mm-hmm. So I think he's an extension of both of these guys, and he's right in the middle because Steve's got some fire to him. Steve will get kicked out of a game, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. I honestly, the thing I like is who he brought on as his assistants. I think Monty and Spoelstra are just really good compliments to
absolutely.
To that. I do like that part of it.
Yeah, he's got some fire to him. He'll get kicked out of a game, but he's also the guy who he won't call a timeout when the team goes on a 10-0 run. He'll figure it out. You guys are smart enough, figure it out. And I dig that about Steve Kerr.
Can I tell you, there was a coach in my high school that when an opposing team would go on a run, right? He would tell us, right, you're the best team. You're the better team. So he would turn his chair and he would turn his back to the court.
Figure it out.
And he'd be like, figure it out. And he'd turn his back, figure it out, get a stop, and
figure it out.
His back.
Mm-hmm. Figure it out.
And at the time, as a high school kid, you're like, what a jerk. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, that was brilliant. It was brilliant. Yeah.
And it worked. So, yeah, I think it's a good hire, Tone. I do. I think it's a really good hire. Yep.
Okay, we'll see. I hope, because they haven't looked great. They haven't looked great recently. All right. So from a bunch of all-stars playing for Team USA to a player that you think will be starting in the all-star game, that if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would say none of these boys will be in the NBA just because their dad's crazy. But you think LaMelo Ball, one of the Ball brothers, will be starting in this year's all-star game?
February 2022.
Why?
I think he's going to be starting in the All-Star game. Number one, Charlotte is a lot better than what everybody thought they were going to be. And the reason why is because of him. Not to mention, his popularity is through the roof. You got to remember what the All-Star game, the starting 5 is. Yep. It's a popularity contest. And with the fan votes, LaMelo Ball is one of the – when you think about Charlotte, the first guy you think about is him. So when I think
I
about,
bet you most people would have a hard time thinking of any other players in Charlotte.
I bet
unless you're paying attention and talking
right.
about it.
If you don't watch basketball that much, if you're the casual fan and somebody asks you to name 5 guys on the Charlotte Hornets, the first guy you say is LaMelo Ball, and then it would be that's it, right? So we're talking about a guy who averages almost 20 and 10. I know that's nuts to say, but yeah, he averages almost 20 and 10. Charlotte is a legit playoff team primarily because of him, and his popularity is through the roof. I even want to take it a step further than that, Tone. If he was playing a little bit better, if he was playing just a little bit better, so if that 13 was 16, the Ball brothers would be starting in the All-Star game.
The
Ball brothers would be starting in the All-Star game. I know that sounds nuts, Tone. Even though DeMar DeRozan is, I got him in the MVP votes. I got him.
Can we shift DeMar to the forward? Because I would love because there's enough people in Chicago. Like to see Lonzo and LaMelo playing starting in the back. Now, listen, they'll probably both be at some point in the game because I think they'll both be on the team. They might play together, which that's, you know what, that's pretty amazing.
I will tell you this, Tone. You just said it yourself. 5 years ago, when this dude LaVar Ball told us, I know what you see in my son Lonzo and how good he is. I got a younger boy who's better than him. Yeah. We all thought he was nuts. In fact, why are you talking to us? Why are you even involved in this? You shouldn't even be involved in this. Not only should he have been involved in this dude is like Nostradamus. I'm trying to tell you guys.
Is he, or did he, as he said, did he speak it into existence?
I don't think he spoke it into existence because I saw footage of him working his kids out, and he pumped that confidence into them. The one thing about LaMelo Ball that I appreciate more than anything is his confidence. He steps on the floor and he thinks that he's better than everybody else. There is nobody else out here who can do what I do as well as I do it. I'm the man out here. And
listen, I'll tell you, if their dad wasn't so outlandish, we probably would have believed him then. But when he says stuff like, "I'll take Michael Jordan one-on-one," and you average like 2 points a game in college, like, okay, you're thinking you're crazy, right? So it was all those other things. I think he's a better passer than Magic. Mm-hmm. Listen, I like Lonzo. He ain't a better passer than Magic. Easy. So I think there's a level of, like, if he would have stopped here, would have been like, but he kind of took it to that. As you can see, I'm off camera. So I think, but you know what though? Again, looking back, now I'm like, wow, you know what? I thought he was a fool, but he might be a genius.
Yeah.
Because what did he do? He, like you said, he pumped up the confidence in his kids. They thought they could do anything, which always helps. You know what else he did? Where was our attention? It wasn't on the kids. No, it was on him. Mm-hmm. How good is that? Right? Like a great coach. What does a great coach do before a big game? He makes it about him so that the players can just focus on their job and let me be the person that you're asking all the questions to. Mm-hmm. Damn, that man might be a genius. That man might be. I can't believe I just said that. Mm-hmm. He might, if he did it on purpose, he may have just fallen into it as well. But he might be a genius. Mm-hmm. Are we going to have an All-Star game?
I think we will, Tom. The good thing about this COVID situation is we've already experienced it. So it's not something that's new. So it is something that they know how to deal with. Now, I had some people ask me that, is it possible to go back into the bubble? No, it's not possible, because you're talking about accommodating all 29, 30 teams. And that's unrealistic to think that you can do that. So that's not going to happen. However, they've taken the necessary measures in terms of safety to make sure that 97% of the league is vaxxed. So that's important. And they've taken the necessary measures to make sure that everybody is safe. So, you got a guy sitting out a game or 2 games. You got a guy sitting out a game just for safety protocol, which does make a lot of sense, as opposed to, this thing, we don't know what it is. We have no idea. Like last year, I'm sorry, in 1920, in the 1920 season, when the league shut down, we didn't know what this thing was. We had no idea how
2020.
to handle it.
Sorry,
2020. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 1920. I don't remember that season.
Right. I don't remember. I was thinking of 1920.
Or you're saying the 1920
season.
season.
2019, 2020 season. I wasn't around for the 1920. I don't know who was playing in that league.
I might have made that league.
Yeah, I might have made that league too. But when I think about it, Tone, I think about how much further we've come from March of 2020 to now in terms of a safety protocol and how much now we might have a stoppage for a week. Just
because the NHL, as an example, the NHL, the National Hockey League, has kind of paused their season.
Yeah.
And so that's why I asked, will there be an All-Star game? Because I think last year it was we didn't really do the whole All-Star weekend. They flew them in, they played the game, they flew them out.
Right.
I don't know how many people liked that.
Right.
Especially the players. So that's why I asked, do you think there'll be a game or?
I mean, All-Star Weekend is a huge part of the NBA. That's a big deal. And
they did a great job building it.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. People want to see that. But I think it's different now. We've come a long way from March of 2020 till now. And it's not ridiculous to think that, we might have, like you just said, we might have a pause for a week, maybe even 2 weeks. But I think that would just be just to get our ducks back in a row and get people back in order, to make sure that we're doing things the right way, as opposed to we're going to shut the league down for the rest of the season until we figure this out. Well, we already been there, so we know how that works. So that's not a situation where and on top of that, from a business standpoint, I mean, we're not really interested in losing money like that again.
No, for sure.
We're not interested in doing that again. That's why we already saw it, and we knew, and we know what exactly we can do this time to avoid that. So
do you think they make it mandatory? You have to be vaxxed to play. And then as a player, I always fight with this one because I get it. Everyone has their right to make a decision whether they want to get vaccinated or not. But at the same time, as an employer, I also have the right to say, hey, if you want to play in my league and make millions of dollars, this is what I'm going to ask of you. So do you think they kind of tighten up some of those protocols? Or is it just, are they at the point you think where they've kind of got, because here's the thing, we're getting into replacement players. I was telling you earlier, I've got like 10 players on my fantasy team that are out with COVID.
Like 2 guys that are active.
Like I actually changed my team name to losing to COVID because I ain't losing to you, I'm losing to COVID.
Right.
There's a lot of moving pieces.
Now,
do you think that's maybe where you're saying the weeks is just let's take this week, figure out what we're going to do, and then come back?
That's something that's realistic. Now, this is completely different. Now, a lot of people hear replacement players and they think about like baseball and football. Well, that was a union issue, right? These guys were able to play. This is way different than crossing the picket line. This is completely different.
No, this is you can't play, so I gotta. That's why you have G League affiliates, right?
Well, this is what, and when I think about replacement players, I think about being at a job, Tone. And Tone, you can't come in today, so I'm going to call Jermaine and see if he can replace you just for today, and just for tomorrow. See if he can replace you for tomorrow, and you'll be back to work on Friday, which works. And I don't think that this is an issue. The quality of play, some people might.
Well, let's take a pause there, right? Because I don't know if it was for COVID or for rest or whatever, but the Toronto Raptors played the Golden State. I don't know if I can call them the Golden State Warriors, right? Because they didn't have Steph, they didn't have Wiggins, they didn't. There was I think their whole starting lineup was gone.
Iguodala was out.
Yeah, Iguodala was out.
Yeah.
And now, granted, the Raptors didn't have Pascal Siakam and a couple of others, but I mean, they were down 30 at one point. That wasn't the Warriors versus the Raptors. That was I don't know who it was. It was the 905. I don't know who the Warriors G League affiliate is. Right. The Raptors is the 9. It was the 905 versus whatever they call the Warriors team.
Not the quality of play.
Is that what you want to watch?
Yeah. And here's the thing, though, Tone. That's not something that's going to be ongoing. That's not like, we
a
got
game here or there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We got replacement players just for the day, or we got replacement players for 2 games. That's not something where we're going to have replacement players for a month. No, like they did in football or like they did in baseball. Of course, you're not going to want to watch that. No, that's why I think that how the NBA has handled this COVID situation, I think they've handled it really well. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a pause in the season just for a week or so, just to get ducks back in a row and just to get all of their affairs back in order.
Okay. Well, you know what? There won't be a pause in Fluent and Chill.
No,
we're going to hit you up every Wednesday with an NBA edition, every Friday with an NFL edition, and Monday, 8 p.m. live on TikTok. Send your questions. Here's the thing. I have an idea. So if you've made it this far on the YouTube side of things, you should subscribe wherever it is. I think it's over there, actually. Subscribe, like, share, whatever. But also in the comments, put your questions. When you come to the live, I'm going to start taking some of those questions that we don't get to. We'll do a little mailbag session on Fluent and Chill, and we'll answer some of your questions.
Mail time.
Yeah, I like it. I gotta record that and make it a thing. All right.
Mail
so until
time.
we're gonna do that. Starting next week on Fluent and Chill, we're gonna do a little mailbag session. So send us your questions. You could either do it here in the comments or send it to us on the TikTok live 8 p.m. on Mondays. Heck, you know what? Anthony K, the letter K, at sportsfluent.com. You can send it to me too, and I'll bring them to the show. But until next week,
take it light, but take it.